As you know, this topic is very important for finance professionals nowadays to really learn, not only learn about the impact of emerging technologies itself, but also understand that where it is really taking us as a profession or as individual professionals. Because as you can see, everybody would agree that in the next 5, 10 years, things are going to be drastically different than what they are today, and this has never happened in the past history. So it is, for many people, it's quite challenging to understand that or even accept that. So many people are still living in their uh, ignorance, that they believe that things will change but not at the pace as people are talking about. So we don't know. Look, this is all about future. There is a lot of speculation, no doubt. It's quite debatable, arguable, but at least we need to talk. So this is my point of view, that look, anything I'm going to share with you, I don't know. I based on my best judgment, based on best information available, I can give you some idea what I think would happen. But again, there is no guarantee. So keep that in mind, that it's all about future and we can always discuss and debate and argue about it. So what I'm going to do in this session, this is a short session. So I will basically cover two technologies mainly, because it's a very vast field and we can talk for hours and hours and days. I will really want to focus two technologies which is going to impact the finance function significantly. One is the blockchain, and the second is the big data analytics. And even in this session, my purpose is not to really teach you what big blockchain is and what big data analytics, because there is a lot of information available. You can go on your own. If you sit on the Google for a couple of hours, you would know it very well. But I'll give you the basic concept for those who have no idea what blockchain or big data analytics. I'll give you some basic idea, so at least you know what is it. And then I would like to jump in to discuss more about the impact of the finance of these technologies. So what is blockchain? There are three, again, if you ask different people, they will explain differently. For our purpose here, from a three different point of views. First of all, technically, the blockchain is a back-end database that maintains a distributed ledger that can be inspected openly. So just focus on the distributed ledger. That's very important. Distributed ledger, and it is open to all the stakeholders. That's number one. From business wide, the blockchain is an exchange network of moving transactions, values, assets between peers, between the parties involved, without the assistance of an intermediary. This is again very important from our point of view, that there is no middleman involved in it. And finally, from a legal point of view, blockchain validates transaction, replacing previously trusted entities. So in order to transfer the money in the current scenario, traditional scenario, we rely on the banks. Bank is the trusted party or trusted middleman in the middle, right? It's no more needed. If we implement blockchain with complete functionality and technicalities involved, it's not needed, and that is going to fundamentally change our profession. uh, uh, just a qualification that blockchain, I think, is still is in infancy stage. There is a lot of practical application already in the market which are happening. There are a lot of service providers already there, but I think in terms of its potential, it is still in the infancy stage. So 5 years from now, what will happen, it's very difficult to really imagine. So how distributed ledger works, as I said, that I'm not going to in the detailed technicalities, but just to give you an idea, every transaction in the blockchain distributed ledger is connected and linked with another transaction. So it's a chain of transactions, chain of blocks actually, as they call it. And that's really the basic characteristic of blockchain, which make it more trustable. So just to give you an idea, what is a centralized database and what is a decentralized, think of the Encyclopedia Britannica in the past, that a lot of people are work on the information and they put all those information in a central database where the Britannica publisher would publish that. That was the old database, centralized. In the distributed or decentralized database, think of Wikipedia. Wikipedia, there is no central authority who is validating those contents. A lot of people, hundreds and thousands of people working on it in a decentralized fashion and putting the information, and it is continuously being updated. So that's a good analogy to understand what is a blockchain database and what is a traditional database. Also, based on the structure of these databases, how they are updated. So central ledger is updated centrally. There are people or there are entities who are maintaining and controlling centrally. Decentralized ledger is a real-time basis being updated. There is no need of a central middleman or central authority because of the mechanism and the structure. It's keep updating itself in a very reliable fashion. So how that trust and reliability is created, because all the parties are involved into it. It's not some central authority which is really updating and consolidating. Every party is involved. Somehow the structure works that each party has to give their consent before the whole structure of the ledger is updated. So that makes it really very, very different than the conventional traditional databases. And trust becomes the main advantage. So we are why there is so much hype about the blockchain, because the trust factor, if we put the technology right as the structure demands, then there is no doubt on the trust. That is why we don't need middlemen. And look, as I said, it's infancy stage, but people are talking about in terms of the imagination and the potential. Most of these central entities would become useless. An extreme view is that there are no need of any governments. I don't know whether that would happen or not. But if you look broadly at the macro level, yes, the purpose of the government is really control and manage. And if that basic control is being done by some other functionalities, then of course government does not need it. I could visualize for you one entity part of the government is the tax authorities. So think of them, what they're doing, what is their basic function. Their function is really to control certain flow of wealth or value, and then based on their own rules and regulations, they have to take a deduction of your income and deposit it for the government resources. That could be done through the mechanism of blockchain itself, and I'll explain to you about the smart contract, which is the main ingredient which can make it happen. So the big change, big change actually, the coming through blockchain is the elimination of middleman from the many organizations and entities and the transactions which is happening today. When it comes to the accounting, it's also premature. So don't take it as a final model. I'm trying to suggest you. This is again from the experts and the big fours. Also a lot of information provided for that. There is a concept called triple entry accounting. Triple entry accounting is basically, in simple words, is just copying one more entry of our double entry accounting system. So assume that in a very simplistic scenario, there are two parties, one is a supplier and one is a customer working, right? And they make a transaction of ordering the material and buying the material and then paying the material, right? Typical transaction. So this is being recorded and registered in the individual ledger of these two entities, right? Assuming that blockchain is integrated with these parties, then every time a party books something, it is through a triple entry accounting, it would go into an independent blockchain database and register itself. Now the difference is that in a local ledger from the supplier or customer, you can make changes, or even if there is some mistake, those entries may not be reconcilable or could be different. Once it goes into the blockchain database, it's unchangeable. So imagine that when assuming the entries are correctly recorded by the supplier and the customers, and if that entry from both sides have gone into the blockchain, in blockchain there is one entry, and one entry is sufficient enough to establish that record or a detail of the transaction. And if you continue to do that, that third entry going into the blockchain decentralized ledger is basically the authentication. There is no need of audit, because no wrong entry would be booked into the blockchain ledger. All third entries booked are itself self uh, audited and unchangeable. So that's a big thing. So again, it could be a triple entry accounting system, it could be a single entry accounting system, but something in that form would take place which would replace the traditional conventional accounting system. So that's big thing again from a vision point of view. So another example is the clearinghouse. So again, in a lot of cases, a lot of business examples, transaction, there are clearing houses. You send a payment to another party in its same country or other country, it goes through a banking clearing house system. It is not needed based on the blockchain concept. It is not needed because it's already confirmed and conformed fully to the other party's transaction. So if you look at the right side, without central intermediary, it will work perfectly. And this slides, by the way, is also from one of the big four. So my point is that the concept is not really fully, we can call it speculation. There is a lot of work and research is going on, especially with the entities like big four, and there is some credibility. As I said, it's not yet finalized, but at least the thought process there. So in this picture, you could see what I just explained, that there are two parties, company A, company B, and through the blockchain mechanism, they are recording or working on their transaction. And so based on that, if that works perfectly, why there is a need of auditors, why there is need of tax authorities, why there is need of banks, even for the legal system, why there is so much need of attorneys and lawyers and courts. Again, this is an extreme view, but at least based on the technicalities, it looks feasible. There is a lot of practical limitations and challenges, by the way, in this. So no doubt it's not easy, it's not going to happen tomorrow. But from a concept point of view, concept is looks feasible. It could be done if you make technological progress as we have been making. I mean, things look like pretty much possible based on what we have achieved in the last 20 years on the technology side. The challenges with the blockchain looks peanut. So it's only a matter of time. Currently, there's so much work is going on blockchain that generally speaking, there is a shortage of blockchain developer across the world, because every big organization, resourceful organization, want to really get their hands into it. So there is a shortage of it. So imagine what may come out in 2 to 5 years from this, all the development work going on. So a smart contract is probably the most important ingredient of blockchain from our point of view, because a smart contract, as the name suggests, that you could basically program something into the system. And it goes back to the tax authorities example. So assuming that if there is a blockchain implemented across all the entities who are taxable, so tax authorities would create a smart contract and include it into the blockchain network. Now, a smart contract is nothing but a conversion of tax code into into commands in the system. So based on the tax code, the smart contract would activate itself. If party A makes a certain level of income which is taxable, a smart contract based on the programming, it would go and at the time of the transaction, it would set aside the portion of the tax which is payable. Again, depending upon the tax code, when it is payable. If it is immediately, maybe they will immediately transfer to the tax authorities, maybe at certain point of time. But a smart contract would basically serve as tax authority. If it is, again, this looks quite remote from a practical point of view, but technologically it looks feasible. So basically, the blockchain is addressing fundamental requirement of any financial accounting system: auditing, transparency, reconciliation, and trust. So if assuming that blockchain reached to a level technologically where generally speaking people could trust from a reconciliation point of view, trust point of view, auditing and transparency, then why do they need such legacy system like we have today in finance, in taxation, in auditing, and other areas? This is also from one of the big four, this slide. So look, one of the technicality which works very strongly to support the different requirement of audit and trust is hash code or hashing. And I'm sure many of you must be familiar that based on the hash codes, which is part of the mechanism of blockchain. Look at from the left side. So you have a record keeping transaction, right? And all transactions, when recorded or registered in the blockchain, they also create a hash code for each transaction. A hash code is a numerical code, pretty long, but it's basically the identification number for each transaction. Assuming blockchain is working reasonably well, from an audit point of view, auditor do not have to really go, even if there is some audit requirement, they do not need to go to the transaction level and test and watch and visualize each and every transaction. They will basically just make a check of the hash codes. If they are making certain checks or audit of the certain transaction, they then just need to verify a hash code. If hash code verifies what they have with within the database, keep assured that transaction is intact. That's the technical verification that's proved by the technical structure of the blockchain, that once you verify the hash code, you don't need to go to the transaction and check it. Transaction is considered intact and in the original form. So that would change the world of audit. Now, you may still need some auditors in the future, and you may still need some accountants in a very different form in future. But this thing is going to change the structure and form of the profession as it is today. Because now, as finance professional, we do a lot of things other than auditing and accounting, right? But if you look deeply inside the structure, we are still dependent on the basic structure and process of accounting. And looks like that accounting would not be needed in future. It's a far-reaching thought, but looks like that accounting would not be needed in future. So what do we do? Because we are built on that fundamental platform of accounting. So this is a big question, which is, as I said, debatable. So that much, I think this gives you some idea about the blockchain so far. So I'll move to the big data now, but if there is any question on the blockchain, now, I mean, I'm not a blockchain expert, by the way. There is a lot of other people who could give you a better technical answer. But what I have presented, if there is any question, confusion, probably I could explain that a little more if you need it. So that much is about the blockchain. Let me move to the big data. And big data is basically a few examples here. So how the technology is evolving. So if you look around, you'll find many examples, by the way. So we used to use the landline for phones. Now everybody has a mobile devices. We used to use the desktop. Now most of our data is residing on the cloud. We used to have the conventional automobiles. Now many people are driving the smart cars. So that is how the world is changing in our day-to-day life. And expanding that view, it's about everything you look around. So it's about smart devices, connected homes, connected cities. It's retail organizations. You go to any different entities, you use different devices. Everywhere you find some sort of technology is working. And in building up scenario, more and more of these devices are being connected together, right? So you may have automobile which has a smart devices and it connected with your home security system or your home air conditioning. So while you are coming home, rather than wait for to arrive at home, you can switch on the air conditioning maybe 5-10 minutes earlier. So by the time you arrive home, it's already working. A lot of applications are being worked in the healthcare. Just to give you an idea that there is an estimate that there are 50 billion devices currently are on earth. So there are 7 million people, 7 billion people, and not everyone has those devices. But even if you take the average, on the average, every human being on this earth has 5 to 6 devices in their hand. So all these devices are basically generating data somehow. And then we have social media, social network. Everybody is busy very much on the Facebook and email and YouTube and Twitter and whatnot. And again, every click you make, so just look at yourself, for example, at your lifestyle. You will feel that, look, I'm not very crazy technology savvy guy. I'm just an average person. But just look from the start in the morning when you wake up until the end of the day when you go to bed, how many clicks you have made in the day and what type of devices you have touched. So I'm sure majority of you or majority of us wake up, the first thing you do is look at your cell phone or mobile device, right? And the last thing you do before you go to the bed, go to sleep, is again your mobile devices. So that is how our lifestyles are changing. And each click is generating a lot of data. So this big data is not only being generated by the individual, but businesses, industries, they are changing very fast. Look at the online banking, look at the retail, look at the insurance, look at the transportation, look at the new services from the governments being offered. So what is big data? Now, in a definition, big data is the term for collection of data sets so large and complex. So imagine the volume of data being generated by all of us, and that all data being generated is basically referred to as big data. Now, big data is a big challenge as well. It's a big opportunity, but as well as a big challenge. And the challenge is that this data is not really as neat and clean as we have used in our spreadsheet analysis or in our uh, business environment. This, first of all, it's huge volume of data. So people are talking about zettabyte, and I will let you figure it out, zettabyte yourself. What is it? Just Google it and you will find out what zettabyte is, right? Then it's a variety of data. It's not really only the data on the spreadsheet. You send a video to your friend or your family member, that generates data. You make a phone call on a digital device, that creates data. You have a devices which are connected together, that generates data, right? Then velocity with which this being created. So there are estimates that every uh, few months we are doubling the volume of data available. And then there is it's very difficult to with this volume of data, it's also a challenge to how to really find out the valuable data on it, because there is a lot of garbage in it. And there is also called something called veracity, which is the inconsistency in the data. So while the big data looks a big, huge opportunity, there is huge challenge to make use of that big data. And that is why I would say that in the area of the big data, there is a new field emerging. A new field is basically data management or data science. It was not needed until a few years, but now it is needed because that data is not ready to be used and analyzed. And there are use cases coming up every day, more and more. Automated cars, healthcare, cost reduction being created in the huge volume of databases. All this data from a business side or even from an individual side, consumer side, is going to help them with the better decision making. So we know the basic concept that yes, database information, database decisions are always better than the decision you make on a hunch and intuition. And that is what's going to happen in the business world more and more, that with this availability of huge data being available, not only available, being generated. So many people, it's very difficult concept to digest that how the data could be so valuable. Now, again, look back at your own lifestyle or your own typical day. From the morning you wake up till you go to bed, you are touching different devices. And all this data by your clicks is being stored somewhere. Now, currently, it's not that very structured form being stored, but imagine if someone has the ability to collect all the data you are clicking and then put in some meaningful manner, identify some trends. In a few days of data or a few weeks of data, they should be able to figure out the pattern in your lifestyle. What the first thing you do in the morning when you wake up? What do you do before until the lunchtime? What you what are your typical activities during the lunchtime, and so on. So imagine that how valuable this data is for the businesses if they are able to capture your lifestyle. And people talk about privacy. My personal point of view is forget about privacy because there is no privacy. You have no idea what level and volume of data on your personal life already companies like Google and Apple and Facebook have. And no matter what, you cannot control that. Now, from an individual point of view, we are not stupid. We understand that yes, there are privacy issues. For me, it's a really making a decision or it's a good bargain or deal. Yes, by surrendering some personal information, we get a lot of quality of life, easier decision making. Because if from a healthcare point of view, if you're already giving or letting someone capture your data of your lifestyle, that data with some smart analytics would be able to project that when will you have a risk in your health, and based on that information it could already suggest you something preventive or something change in the lifestyle. So it's a good deal in my opinion. Yeah, of course there are uh, areas and aspect of life we are not very proud to share with the world, and my suggestion is that rather than hiding it, we should try to eliminate those things we don't want to share, we are not comfortable sharing with the world. We rather try to eliminate from our life, and this is what I have done uh, with the best of my ability. Of course, I'm not saying that I'm very clean and neat, but I have made myself very comfortable with a lot of other information I was not comfortable before. So it's a humble advice that if you struggle with the privacy, then try to apply this thing in your life as well. So there is as I said, there is a lot of use cases available. This one case study here, I'm not going into detail, but just to give you an idea. Utility is one area, and I'm sure that many of you already have the smart meters installed at your residences or in your businesses, and that's as one small application is already generating significant positive results. So if you look at the traditional meters, uh, manual, basically they are read once in a month. So our meter reader would come and once in a month they would read, and that is the only information the utility or these energy companies have. With the smart meters, it is generating data on the consumption pattern on a real-time basis. So within a day, you may have millions of information points, which again, as I explained earlier, that if you collect all the data and put together through some analytics, it will provide you a certain pattern. So they are able to identify certain consumers who have very different type of patterns. Some are very energy conservative, some are wasting a lot of energy, and without knowing and with their ignorance, they have no idea. So what these companies or what these applications do, they collect the data, analyze it, process it, and then provide it back to the consumers on a real-time basis. That look, yesterday your pattern was like this, and for many consumers it's really a news because they have no idea how they're spending. So there were lights which were on during the whole night. They were not needed to be kept on, or air conditioning was running without any purpose, those type of things. The bottom line is that they were able to, there are, as I said, there are many case studies, they were able to generate significant savings for the consumers as well as for the energy company, energy provider. So this is from IBM example. IBM has created application, but look, especially for people like us, like finance professional, I suggest you, many people have struggled that, look, if big data is so big thing, how should I introduce into my company? Well, you need to update and educate yourself first. My suggestion is companies like IBM, Oracle, SAP, SAS, these companies have been very active on creating financial and business applications and accounting applications. And they are basically doing the things which are still related to those areas. So if you want to talk about big data, just search something big data services by SAP or IBM or Oracle, and you will find a lot of information in the form of application which is being developed. So this is IBM smart meter. Now look at this chart on the left side. It shows the process in the data management. So data warehousing, data security, then reporting, the data analysis, and the data mining. Now these are very technical area. Data mining especially, with the volume of data, with the variety of data, with the structured and unstructured data, data mining has become a very specialized field. This Encore is a utility company. So IBM is a provider of the technology. Encore in the North America, United States, a big utility company who has used those applications. And if you look at the bottom line, a user reduced their electric usage and bills by 25% or more. Well, that's a good deal. By letting the utility company know their usage or spending pattern, if they could save 25%, I think it's a fantastic deal. So the problem with big data, as I said, it's an opportunity and also challenges, is that the volume is unimaginable. As I said, that uh, try to educate yourself with what zettabyte is, but it is expected that the volumes would grow to 44 zettabyte by next year. And the problem is that we don't have technological devices to store that much data conveniently. That's one big problem. The number two big problem is the processing. So although I think we have made, we means the humankind has made a lot of improvement on the storage sizes, but when it comes to the processing, it is still very slow. And if you want to really feel it, that challenge, if you have a 500 GB storage device hard disk or a 1 TB hard disk or 2 or 3 TB also available, try to shift the contents, try to upload or offload to another device, and you will encounter yourself that how many hours or time it is taking. I try to convert one of my 1 TB device that was only half full to another device, and it took a whole night. So that's still a challenge in terms of the processing speed. So first problem was the huge data sets. Second problem was processing data having complex structure. So in the structure part, think of your spreadsheet. Your spreadsheet is an structured data because you could really use it or manipulate it or arrange it the way you want. If there is a data coming from a video form, that's unstructured. That data has to be cleaned and processed to bring it to some form. So that's still a big challenge for the utilization of the big data, that whether you have structured or unstructured data. And as you can imagine, most of the big data is coming in unstructured form. The third problem is processing faster. I explained already. So Hadoop is a framework or a technology. It's a more like a framework. So you don't need to worry about Hadoop, but you will hear this name more and more as you get involved with this big data. Hadoop is not new. Hadoop is already there in the market for almost 10, 12 years. But Hadoop has provided a different concept to manage with these big data challenges. So quickly, as I promised, I would not go into technicalities. But what is Hadoop? Hadoop is an open source software platform for distributed storage, because we cannot store this data centrally in such huge size. There's a concept called distributed storage and distributed processing. So not one processor, not one database, but there is a multiple. There are hundreds or maybe thousands of different units which are processing and storing. And this is built from a commodity hardware. So these are not very expensive centralized equipment. I mean, imagine the companies like Facebook or LinkedIn, how volume of data they are handling, and they are handling through the Hadoop network or Hadoop framework. Hadoop works like this. If you look at this right side, this diagram, that there is a master device, master control device, and then there is a storage. There is a network of distributed devices. So distributed devices could be in hundreds and thousands, and they are controlled by a central master. It's like a technical term. They use the analogy like master and slave. So slave cannot do anything on their own. They only do with the instruction and direction of the master. That is how this works. So just to get you familiar with this Hadoop. But let's talk about our impact of these technologies on the finance or accounting function. This slide you're looking at your screen shows the 4 types of data analytics. By the way, these are 4 types are all part of the data analytics or advanced data analytics as they call it. So in terms of the 4 type of analytics, we have been hardly doing any descriptive so far. We mostly did historical, or we still do historical, but when it comes to the current real time, we hardly touch that, and that's all about descriptive. So we hardly do it. Some organizations try to do diagnostic, finance try to do diagnostic through the BI and other tools, but we are really not present there, and not to talk about predictive or prescriptive, which is all future oriented. So in terms of this type of analysis, that is where we are in our finance function. And as you can imagine, as you move from descriptive to diagnostic to predictive and prescriptive, it becomes much and much more complex. So just to understand a broader picture again, what is the level of development of these analytics? So starting from the top, descriptive, what happened, historical mainly. Now, there is some technology available. Of course, we are using ERP systems, data generation, dashboard, scorecards, but there's a lot of human involvement into those analysis. And you see that through the bifurcation of that part through the green segment and the blue segment. So blue is automated, and the human input is larger in that descriptive. It goes to diagnostic, advanced level again. There is human input is involved to a significant level, although more technology would be available or is available. But notice here that when you move to predictive, the human part becomes even lesser, because we don't have much capacity and capability to generate and drive and create predictive analysis on our own. And when it comes to the prescriptive, there is no human involvement. Now, how does it happen? So I'm not sure. You might have heard about the machine learning and deep learning. Now, again, I'm not going into the technicalities. Just keep the terms in your mind. Machine learning. Machine learning is the algorithm through which the machine learns itself. Just to give you a simple example, Autonomous cars. So when we learn driving and we keep driving from year after year, of course we are our learning is being developed and getting matured, right? So after 5 years, now there is general observation that teenagers, even after a few years, they're still driving carelessly. But as you move to 30 plus, 35 plus, you become very mature driver. And the proof is the insurance companies. The premium rate they charge for the teenagers and they charge for the matured people like 35 plus is very, very different because of the same fact. So learning process for driving is not only 6 months, it's lifetime. So by the time you are 50 and you're driving, you get a very lower rate because you have least risky driving habits. So imagine that even if you are 50, you may have a 30 years driving experience, and based on that, you are driving very, very carefully. Now, autonomous cars have started to come into the market in the last 5, 10 years, and their brain, which is the artificial intelligence, they are also learning. So every time autonomous car is driven, it captures, observes a lot of data, and it stores it. And not only stores it, it processes it through the machine learning and also some part of deep learning. And then it develops the new algorithm to drive the car based on those, right? So it's continuously learning. Imagine if an autonomous car is being driven for 100 years. Wouldn't it be better than a human driver? Now, some people struggle that how could technology exceed or surpass the human intelligence? Well, deep learning is a very novel modern concept, but also very dangerous concept. And if you are interested to listen more, then listen to the Elon Musk is very strong. He's on the position that these technologies, especially the artificial intelligence, would be our last invention, because somehow, sometime it will work back for us dangerously and maybe destroy the. So this is one point of view. You're not going there, but I just gave you a very small example, simple example, how the technology could learn better than human life, because technology does not get tired. Technology does not die. They continue to learn. The 100 years driving experience by a robot probably would be better than the human experience of 30, 40 years. So that concept is applied here. So prescriptive analysis, which is the advanced level analysis, if you have robots or you have systems created which are itself learning on certain practices and behaviors, then at the prescriptive level, they have enough database, enough history, enough algorithm, enough learning itself, that they don't need human intervention. Before it happens, based on the history, they would create an algorithm, they would create a decision actually. So look at two things: decision support and decision automation. It will process all the data, it will use certain algorithms, it would create a decision, and then would implement that decision automatically, execute it, right? That is the ultimate of the productive, the uh, advanced data analytics. Also notice on the left side, there is a two group, one called the business intelligence. So business intelligence approach has really worked up to historical data, descriptive and diagnostic. What we are talking about now is the advanced analytics, which is very different than BI. So let me show you a quick high level comparison between the BI and advanced analytics, just to help you understand what is the difference between the two. So of course you are familiar with BI. BI is basically reactive, rear view, and advanced analytics is all about future. Type of questions: what happened, what is happening, and what will happen, and how could we control it. Methods: there is the main difference in the methodology. So reporting KPIs, metrics, dashboard, scorecard, OLAP, ad hoc queries, etc. They were very useful in the BI environment. In the advanced analytics, it's about the modeling, predictive modeling, data mining, text mining, multimedia mining. Now look, the technicalities involved. That is why it is creating altogether a new field of data management. Now some finance professionals are worried that do I need to learn all those things? And I'll explain you in a bit that how do you really address, or what approach you need to adopt going forward. Big data, yes, both are using big data, but the volume and the level of big data used by advanced analytics is not comparable. Usually we use in the BI the structured data, and in advanced analytics, we would be going to use more and more of unstructured data. Users are more diverse users in the case of the advanced analytics and business initiative relative productivity. So that comparison high level gives you some idea. Now look at this chart. This is basically the process of data regulation. As someone asked that how do you control the data regulation? Well, that is a typical chart of the analytics process with this big data. So starting with the problem identification, then data access request and discovery, sourcing the data, then data transformation, the data sampling, the data mining, all called data preparation, then model creation. That's also not very easy. Model evaluation, model creation, called exploratory analytics. And then comes the model deployment, which may still require a lot of technical expertise to deploy it. So this is a new emerging field coming up. It was not required earlier, but today it's growing very fast. And for example, data scientist is one of the role which is growing very fast all across the world, like blockchain developers. Now the question is that as a typical finance professional, do we need to learn all these technicalities? Because people are scared who are not that much educated that what is data management is. They're jumping that, look, I need to enroll into the advanced analytics or blockchain or any technology come across, I need to learn it. It's really not useful that way. So let me give you another show you another chart which will explain that. So look at this chart carefully. This is showing a three domains or three areas in a modern business environment. So starting from the top, the pink circle, it's basically the business skills. And there you have the business managers, the business heads, the marketing department, the salespeople who are running the business, which basically they are there on the top as a change manager. On the left side, the yellow circle, you have the technological skills. So here I would say that this is your IT department, data quality operator, data architect, workflow integrator. Key technology skills needed to really do this thing. So what I showed you here, this could be done mainly IT or a similar department, which are technology oriented, which is here in the circle on the left side in the yellow circle. What do you see on the right side in the green or blue circle? This is more like analytics. Now, this falls again in between finance and IT. Finance has been involved in analytics, but now there are more advanced analytics, and IT is coming up into it. So there is another field emerging, which is basically about the advanced analytics. It's a mix of technical and business skills. So data visualization analyst, model developer, the people who would create those prescriptive and predictive models. Now notice here, a combination of business and analytics is called business partner. That is an ideal role for the finance. In fact, it should be called as finance business partner. And that, as you could understand, this is a combination of business knowledge, business expertise, and some technical expertise. Technical expertise does not mean that you have to become a data scientist or data architect, but some understanding, some ability to handle advanced analytical tools. That is what we have here. So my advice to finance professional is that don't worry about the technical. You cannot handle it. You don't have the capacity. A typical data scientist, if they are starting a career, they need a background as a master's in statistics or mathematics or computer science. And we don't have that. So unless you are starting your career, unless you are in the first 5 years of your career in finance, and you feel that, look, data science is something I need to really focus because that's more promising, you can do that if it is the first 5 years. But if you're already 15 years into the profession, you cannot do that. It would really not provide you good ROI on your efforts. What you need to focus on is the finance business partnering role. I mean, this is not new. I have been propagating and coaching and teaching about this role for several years, but I still see majority of the people are not getting it. So this is your ideal place. And even for the people who are holding the titles like chief accountant or accounting manager, who are basically very much on the routine type of transaction, they need to prepare themselves for the business partner role, which is quite different, by the way. So, so that's one very clear direction or advice for finance professionals. So the question is that this data analytics is a very fast emerging area. For many organizations, it really did not exist before. So, and every organization is getting involved or at least getting concerned about it. So the question is that who owns data analytics? And this morning, while I was just finishing these slides for this presentation, I sent the same question because there is no one answer. I sent the same question to LinkedIn, asking that in your organization, who owns the data analytics? And I'm just looking at my post. It generated a lot of feedback. So far, there are 29 comments and 30 reactions. And the answers, people are all type of answers. Some people gave simple answers, finance, because finance has been the owner of data analytics, yes. Uh, but it's not for finance only going forward. Many people who are looks like more knowledgeable and involved into it, they are saying that in many organizations it's marketing, is customer service, is some new department, it's IT department. So it's a mixed bag, but it's very important to understand at this point that who really owns data analytics. So it could be finance, of course. In many organizations, because of the historically responsible, they were historically owned the analytics. So naturally, they are thinking, or the other business people are thinking that it would be finance who would do and own all the analytics. By the way, by ownership, I mean that like for the financial information, we are the owners or custodian. So it would be used by many people, many functions, many stakeholders, but you basically take the responsibility of owning the financial information because you're custodian of it, right? Similarly, for data analytics, some function, some people have to take the responsibility and take ownership as custodian. And in some organization, it would be finance, or it is finance already. For finance to continue to do this, it requires deep understanding of business, by the way, which is lacking. Generally speaking, it's significantly lacking. Finance people is still blamed for lack of business acumen, and that is true. So that's one major limitation they are facing. Also, looking from the model we just covered in the last slide, lack of technical orientation and customer intimacy also missing part, because you really need to understand the different aspect and part of the business, not as a finance professional, but differently. So but that is one possibility. The finance could become the leading function to own and drive technology, data analytics. Second option, or the other option, is IT department, which is already happening in many companies, that the IT is really coming in the forefront with all the technological things happening. IT is at the forefront. They are hiring more and more talented people. This is probably the fastest growing function and really getting involved into the business. So with all this technological development happening, they are rightly positioned to initiate and drive. And that is what happens when there is a new CTO or CIO and he's taking a lot of initiatives. CEO also expect that you also do something for the data analytics better, because at least technically they are oriented, they know what to do. So they really have an advantage. But problem is that majority of them lack business orientation, even worse than finance, because IT has been working in their own closed silo. They didn't have a chance to much interact with the business. So although finance has also blamed for lack of business orientation, but they are still better than IT. I would say lot better than IT people. IT people have the major limitation that they never thought they need to get involved into the business. So that becomes their major limitations. So I would say it's more like a competition going on right now between finance and IT, but it doesn't stop there. Who else is there? So many organization, marketing is coming into the forefront, and I actually got some feedback in my LinkedIn post. Some people say that it's customer service or client service function which is really taking ownership. Why? Because they are at the front end of the business. All these advanced analytics is basically going to help us significantly and with understanding the customer behavior, because if you're talking about the predictive analytics, And prescriptive analytics, we are talking about the customer behavior basically, right? And that has been the major challenge for every business historically. So if this is the main ROI or the result of the advanced analytics, of course, marketing is very much interested into it. They want to understand the behavior of customers very well, right? So they might be in a position to jump on it. In fact, already happening, and they are closest to the customer. But they also lack financial orientation and technical orientation. And finally, it could be a mixed bag, or it could be the head of the business or the business head or head of strategy, which is not there in every organization, but someone who is driving the business from a long-term point of view. They could really take ownership because they are also rightly positioned, because they are talking about the future of the company from a strategy point of view, and they would be better aligned. But they lack consistency and the core functional expertise, because they are looking at a lot of other things, and they cannot really become a core functional expert like IT for the advanced analytics. So this is the situation currently. And if you ask any expert, they may give you a different point of view, but I think it's about future, and we don't know what we don't know right now. I'll give you one more slide. So look at this picture also. This is also help you to understand what is happening on the data, advanced data analytics. So look at this chart. It's working as the commercial versus the technical, and performance versus the conformance, right? Conformance is compliance or audit type of things. So what you see on the left top is data culture. This is the culture of the organization. I would say more like IT or the business head. Data management is more like IT involved here. Data analytics is somewhere between IT and business. And what you see on the above right side, that is our interesting area, value creation. And again, I have been telling this for years, that the main focus of the finance should be value creation of the organization, because that is where we deliver the best value. And you also see business partner. That is our role. Now, as we move forward, there may be certain finance professionals, or there may be certain finance functions which may get involved more in the data analytics or data culture or even data management, depending upon the culture of the organization, depending upon the individual situation. But I would say in the mainstream, at the macro level, value creation would make the most sense for finance function to really get invested into. So my view, again, you can disagree with me. This is my view as I see what is going to happen. So businesses with this advanced analytics, if it becomes available at the level of predictive and prescriptive analysis, businesses will shift their focus from reactive to proactive. Historical is one thing, but it's gone. They would become very interested what is going to happen tomorrow, next week, next month. And big data analytics in business is mostly about customer behavior, right? So we are trying to understand customer behavior. And by the way, there are already substantial confirmed results coming up. These big data analytics, businesses are multiplying their business volumes by simply understanding the customer behavior. So marketing is basically the custodian or owner of the customer behavior. That is their main concern. If analytics is providing that information, they naturally become the owner of that part. So marketing may take the lead into it. And marketing would lead the big data analysis, but need support from IT and finance. So this is my view, that I think marketing, based on their customer intimacy relationship, they would be more suited in future organizations to take the lead on advanced analytics. And of course, they would be helped by IT and finance as well. Finance still has a role into it. IT will basically lead the designing and operating the big data structure. Again, all technicalities. That is where they really do the best job. And finance will lead translating the number into stories, value creation part again. So I'm not suggesting that marketing taking a lead, finance will go to the background. Finance has its own position. Finance position is really explaining the numbers into stories, value creation. So they are the ones who understand the whole life value cycle, value chain of the business. They understand the financial numbers, they understand the analytics, and they would be the best position to finally translate all those output numbers into stories. So this is my view is that financial reporting, financial forecasting would not have any place in the future, near future or far future. So if you are in the reporting and financial forecasting, you need to really think a little deeper, that what are your options from the career point of view. So this is my last slide. This is my advice that what finance or finance professionals or CFOs should really focus upon. So there is also a worst case scenario or very remote possibility that finance function could totally be eliminated. That's a worst case scenario for finance, because as I said, the fundamental base of accounting is questionable whether it will really exist or not. If that does not exist, then anything else we do is basically just to survive ourselves, and that might not stand. So we need to really, before we reach to that situation, we need to make ourselves solid contributors, solid enough contributor into the business that our justification is not based only on accounting, but on other values we created. So here, what you need to do. First of all, fundamental, a deep understanding of business, deep understanding, not that you are working 20 years in the business, you understand business. Go back, read some strategy books, attend some strategy programs. You need to go deep into it, spend some serious time into it. That's number one. Not internal only, not looking at your own organization, but market knowledge, industry knowledge, market knowledge. Do you understand the market and industry in which the businesses survive or competing? And customer focus. Finance people have very serious challenge really to develop themselves to understand customer focus. So that's on the commercial side actually. And the technology side, awareness of technology trend. What is happening? And again, you don't need to become a technologist, as I explained earlier. What I explained to you, uh, reasonable knowledge and awareness of blockchain, reasonable knowledge and awareness of the big data, that's all you need. But use that awareness of technology trend and combine with other business knowledge, ability to work with IT. We don't need to become data scientists. We need to develop the ability to work with data scientists, to work with data architect, to work with IT, not in the IT. A fair understanding of the technology is good enough. So technology and also ability to handle advanced analytics tools, a dashboard and scorecard. I don't know what would be there, but at least the user end, if there are advanced interface, you need to develop and learn that ability to handle those tools. So two areas, commercial and technological. It's not a stop there, by the way. Further, what you need to, let me open the whole thing. People related skill, that there comes your people leadership or people skills, communication, presentation, negotiation, very, very fundamental. And you can learn it. Some people have got gifted, but you can learn it. Leadership and interactive skills, your negotiation, your team skills, influential skills, emotional intelligence. And in the financial, it's no more about IFRS. You don't need to worry about the debit credit, but a numbers guy, a statistical mindset, and ability to translate numbers into stories, storytelling, that you are sitting in a boardroom and you are explaining what happened at the macro level, at their level, talking in their language. Finally, with all these expertise, I think you would develop a big picture mindset, which is essential. Again, this is mid to senior level finance professional. I don't know if in future there would be any need of the junior level people. I doubt it. But what I'm suggesting, this is from mid to senior level. So wherever you are, please take a look what I've shared with you and see how could you make it better for yourself and your employer and other people around you. So folks, that's all from my side.
Saeed
Yes.
Bhatt has a question. They are saying that there is already a communication gap between finance and IT departments in terms of the developing reports or analyzing data. Will this be complicated more?
It would be a big challenge for both the functions.
Yeah.
It would be a big challenge. So I think if you are a CFO or you are in a senior level position, I think you need to take initiative to get involved with IT. Now in IT, trends are changing very fast. More and more organizations are hiring CIOs and CTOs. Now CIOs and CTOs are very different people than the traditional head of ITs. These people are hired on the basis that they understand the business strategy. They understand the future of the business. They could work with the CEO and they could help the CEO with the IT strategy going forward. So if you have a CIO and CTO, you are lucky. I think it would be far easier for you as a finance head or CFO to align with them and discuss those things. But it's a very delicate area because there would be a lot of competition and a lot of security issues between the different people, because now it's not a safe playground for finance. Finance has always been in a safe playground because it was considered an inevitable function based on the accounting and reporting. It is no more. As I said, in the worst case scenario, in my opinion, it could completely eliminate. So now you have to compete with marketing and IT and other functions to really show your worth, show that you are still could contribute toward the value creation of the business, and that's a tough job. IT people are taking over, and if what may happen in some businesses, if you have very weak finance function or weak CFOs, they would be eliminated much faster because there is, I mean, in a future scenario, there is no fundamental need of accounting and finance. These functions, I'm not saying that treasury would not be required, but look, what's a big deal? Instead of having a full-fledged finance department, just hire one person to deal with the banks. So it's quite scary, I would say. And this is the time to really wake up and do something individually as well as collectively. Hope that answers your question, Saeed. So, Saeed, you were saying that you want to cover something on the strategic CFO program, or you want me
Yes,
to cover that?
we want you to just explain this
Okay.
CFO strategy program, and also you have just touched base about the finance business partner.
Yeah.
Even that program, if you can just give us some introduction, so that if anybody is interested, they can take any.
So I would suggest that I'm sure many of you are familiar with the Makkah CFO Academy website, but I'm opening that page for you. So just to give you some idea. So this is the, I hope you are seeing that this is the home page of the Makkah CFO Academy. And there is a tab called programs. If you go to the program tab, then you will see many programs. What I would like to highlight here is the program related to which is called a strategic CFO program. Now, one option is that if you really feel that you need to learn a lot on the strategy and the leadership and the emerging, this program was created 2.5 years ago, actually, a strategic CFO program. And since then, I have changed the content based on the requirement. It started with the strategy only, but now it's a combination. It's a very comprehensive program, actually, 12 months. It comprises of strategy modules, leadership modules, and we added technology modules lately. And there are also a lot of other features which really make this very well. So just to give you an idea, on the strategy modules, let's talk about business models, strategy mapping, enterprise performance management, blue ocean strategy, value chain analysis, balanced scorecard, strategic thinking, etc. Right? Just to give you a flavor. In the leadership side, it talks about setting up your inner game. So it's about personal leadership, your public leadership, and your strategic leadership. And this is very comprehensive. Again, I think there are 300 short videos of my talks and lectures. So you go through step by step in a very stable manner. So it takes 12 months to cover all the stuff. What we added in the technology lately is cybersecurity, advanced data analytics, artificial intelligence, blockchain, robotics, cloud computing, big data, 3D printing, and a few other topics. So I'm also keeping a close watch on the market, how the things are changing. Things are changing, by the way, by weeks and months. So I'm trying to keep updated my contents and agenda here. And some of the other features of the program is that you become part of a community. You work in the peer groups, so you're not alone. You're meeting with other peers in local city or other people, other cities, and you keep discussing and working with them. It's a combination of the video tutorials and live sessions. So we do the live session every other week, like I'm having the live session with you. So my strong recommendation is that look at this program and see whether it's a good fit for you. By the way, I guarantee that it would be difficult or almost impossible to find a similar program anywhere else at this price. And I can also share with you, at this price, it's really a bargain.